למשקיעים בנדל"ן בשוק האמריקאי אפשרויות רבות, בין השאר השקעה בנדל"ן מסחרי. אחת מהאפשרויות הפוטנציאליות בנדל"ן המסחרי בארצות הברית היא השקעה במרכזי קניות. כדי ללמוד על ההשקעה בחללי מסחר פתוחים בארצות הברית, נשוחח עם דיוויד, הארווי, סמנכ"ל בכיר ב-M&J Wilkow, המנהל את תחום הרכישות וניהול הנכסים בחברה. Hello, David.
Hello.
I understand that a little more than half of M&J portfolio consists of retail properties. What is the current state of the investment market for large shopping centers?
Well, and it's important that we distinguish the types of shopping centers that we are going after, that we have recently purchased, have been what we call dominant mixed-use type properties. So they're not simply retail shopping areas. They are a combination of retail, which is both big box and specialty type tenants, as well as entertainment and restaurant. And so that, which with that mixed use and dominant, very large, the market for those is very competitive. We've just been involved in an attempt to buy one of these properties, and we found that we were up against several major institutions. They were willing to pay much lower cap rates than we thought that should be paid. They were willing to buy them all cash, and they were willing to do due diligence in incredibly short periods of time.
How do you evaluate and differentiate among the many investment opportunities that you encounter? What are the essential characteristics that you look for when evaluating a shopping center?
The factors that you evaluate are really very complex. I would say the place that you start is probably with the economic base, the demographic base of the place where the shopping center is. You really want to be someplace that is growing, has good incomes, has low unemployment, has good job growth. So you start there. Once you're satisfied that the area that you're trying to buy a shopping center in is got good long-term growth characteristics, then you focus on really the attributes of the property. The most important thing about a shopping center, obviously, is the quality of the tenancy. And in that regard, it's fairly easy to identify, at least in the United States, who are those dominant, best-in-class tenants that you would like to have in a portfolio. So the names are, obvious: Target, great grocery stores, Kohl's, names that are common. So you hope there's a fairly large selection of those. A shopping center can't be successful if it's not easily accessible and not very visible. Then you evaluate what the sales performance is of existing tenants. And in that regard, there's an indice that we call health ratios, which is really the rent level that the tenant is paying divided by the sales that they're generating. And you want the rent to be low in relationship to high sales. And so you look to see if really a majority of the tenants have what we call low health ratios. Because if that's the case, you know that they're doing well and they like the center, and you're not going to have to, say, give them a rent reduction to keep them.
How has the growing importance of e-commerce impacted the way you look at potential shopping center acquisitions?
Well, there's no question that e-commerce is a very important part of what's happening with shopping centers. It's actually less important, though, than many people realize. In 2013, the total e-commerce sales were only about 6% of total sales overall. Nevertheless, e-commerce is definitely affecting certain categories of tenants more significantly than others. And there are tenants, office supply tenants, book tenants, music tenants, anyone that's selling a commodity that is highly standardized and is easily identified on a website so that you don't have to go look at it and test it, can be sold on the internet. And usually things that are sold on the internet are sold at less expensive prices necessarily than you find. So this has forced what's happened is it's forced most of the retailers that are in those very standardized product lines to develop very sophisticated e-commerce channels themselves. It's now called omni-channeling. It means that they're not just selling stuff in a bricks and mortar location, they also are offering everything online. The impact has really been very minor except for those specific categories. The other thing that has happened is we've placed a greater emphasis on those types of tenants that are selling things that are not likely to be that desirably marketed over the internet. For instance, entertainment, restaurants, and what we call specialty tenants.
Can you provide some recent examples of where this strategy has been successfully implemented?
Yes, we've been successful in the last year and a half buying 2 big shopping centers, and it's sort of interesting that we're doing this here in Israel because in both of those we had significant investment from Israeli private individuals who were brought to us through Profimex, who's helped us get to this point. But the 2 centers that we did, one is the waterfront in Pittsburgh, which is, we bought about 760,000 square feet out of a total agglomeration of activities there. So it's not just the shopping center, it's also 650,000 square feet of office space, 3 hotels, a whole bunch of separately owned restaurants. So it's really about $1.5 million, a very dominant property. We bought that back in 2012, and it had some components to it that were not as good as they needed to be, and so far we've been, because of its dominance, it just needed a little work, it's much better than it was. The second one, which is called Arlington Highlands in Arlington, Texas, actually near where Cowboys Stadium is, if any of your viewers would know the Cowboys football team. That one was actually in far better condition than the waterfront, but it was encumbered by bad debt and made it less desirable to institutions, and I think that's what helped us be able to buy it. And so that's merely been a process of trying to further increase the size of it. There was a little bit of development land, and we've had lots of interest from best-in-class tenants to come into it.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.